All right, we're bringing you the latest now on the federal government shutdown. It sits at day 24 now. The Senate failed to advance a GOP-backed measure that would pay federal employees, military members, and contractors who have continued to work during the government shutdown. 3 Democrats crossed the aisle to vote for it, including both Georgia Senators Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock. The Senate adjourned yesterday without taking a 13th vote on the House passed bill funding. Barring some unforeseen events, senators won't gavel back in until late Monday afternoon. While Washington remains gridlocked over how to reopen the government, the standoff keeps hitting home here in Georgia. And today, there's growing concern over what would happen with the SNAP benefits and WIC benefits if the shutdown continues to drag into November. The Georgia Budget and Policy Institute is warning that more than 1.4 million in the state, including roughly 640,000 children, could face food insecurity if the benefits were delayed or reduced as early as next weekend. The program, in good times, reduces hunger across Georgia nearly 1/3, helping families stretch their grocery bill during these tough times. But as it stands, the USDA's reserve can only pay about 2/3 of all SNAP benefits for the month of November. All right, with more now is President and CEO of the GBPI, Staci Fox, joins us now. Welcome back to the show, Staci.
Thanks for having me back, Chesley.
Absolutely. Your team at the GBPI says SNAP is a critical lifeline for nearly 1.5 million Georgians. What does the lifeline look like for families on the ground, especially heading into the holidays?
Well, we're talking about food on the table for families. And as you mentioned, Chesley, 640,000 children are counting on SNAP to make sure that they're fed and ready to go to school every day, and that families are healthy and that parents are able to take care of their families. This is a real security issue. So ideally, obviously, the shutdown ends, but if not, we call on this administration to release those contingency funds and to find additional programmatic funds like they did for WIC early on in the shutdown to make SNAP whole for the month of November.
Yeah. Your report says that SNAP pumps about $3 billion into Georgia's economy. How could a delay or a reduction ripple through local grocery stores and small businesses?
That's right, Chesley. I mean, about 2,300 grocers rely on SNAP as well. So this isn't just about food on families' tables. This is about local economies. So many of our counties around Georgia rely on SNAP dollars for their economy. So we have to get these dollars into Georgia to take care of not just families, but also our small businesses.
Your report, you're calling for the USDA to use all legal and discretionary tools to keep the benefits flowing. What specific steps would you like to see them take right now?
That's right. So there's a contingency fund set aside to sort of backfill SNAP if something should happen exactly in this situation. As you mentioned, that fund has about $6 billion in it. The monthly cost for SNAP across the country is about $8 billion. So not only does the administration need to release those contingency funds, they need to release some other programmatic dollars to make that $6 billion, the $8 billion whole, which we know they can and is legal. And honestly, they are required to release this fund. So this is something that we shouldn't be having to ask to do. They should have done this immediately when the shutdown happened.
Yeah, you hear often about Metro Atlanta being hit hard, but your research points to rural areas of Georgia being hit harder. Why is that?
Well, because we have more families that are relying on SNAP, and because of those small business grocers that you mentioned earlier, they're relying on those SNAP dollars too, much more than we do here in Metro Atlanta.
Does the state of Georgia have any state contingency plans or emergency resources that could be helping to bridge the gap in times like these?
Well, certainly the state could step in if they wanted to. You know, the state has about $9 billion in surplus right now above our own rainy day fund that we could use to help Georgians. But it's unclear if the feds would backfill the state at this point. So not quite sure what the state will do, but the feds are required to step in here. We all should not having to be talking about this or having to even ask for it to happen.
Yeah. You work with families. You've met some of the families maybe struggling during this particular time, parents, seniors, kids. What's your biggest concern if Washington doesn't act soon?
Well, we know in crisis like this that families have to make very hard decisions. So if families are having to make decisions about food or say a medical bill or a prescription to take care of somewhere in their family, this is where the rubber hits the road, right? Where they're making those decisions. So that's what we worry about, is we worry about families having to make decisions that they shouldn't have to make, to prioritize things like food over healthcare or food over childcare, which then means work and income for the families. This is a domino effect that could be devastating for Georgia families.
All right, Staci Fox, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for your insight this morning. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Chesley. Have a good weekend.
All right, take care.